Hello, welcome to this DCS AH-64D tutorial. In this video, we are going to be covering how to use the AGM-114L radar-guided Hellfire missiles. Let's go ahead and hop in the cockpit and get ourselves set up. We are going to put the radar-guided Hellfires under the air-to-ground missile category on pylons 4, 3, and 1. The middle pylon we will leave empty. That's where you can put spare fuel. And on pylon 2, I like to take the laser guided variants because, as you'll see later, the radar guided variant are not the end all be all of the Hellfires. You're probably going to want a mixed load. I've found recently that flying the Apache at about 65% fuel is extremely helpful for maneuverability, so it might be worth a try. While I go ahead and arm us up, let's set up our plane. Okay, they've loaded us up, and we can see the white-tipped Hellfires are the radar-guided variant, and the pylon without the white tips are our lasers. We can see here the radar-guided variants have the triangular chevron on the tip of the missile, whereas the laser-guided variant has the horizontal bar. We can go ahead and get George to equip them using our classic method. Have him WAS the Hellfires, and then press and hold the weapon select button to change to RF. We now see it says type RF. Now when you select the weapon, you may notice that the square dotted box is moving all around the screen, and also your targeting pod is looking all around. That's because George decided to go into an automatic laser search mode, so we're going to fix that. We're going to get into the co-pilot gunner seat with the 2 key on our keyboard number row. Once we're in the co-pilot seat, we're going to look for this switch here. The switch is called laser tracker mode. It looks kind of like a rocker switch. We are going to move it from the upper A position to the center O position. After we do that, George will now focus and acquire targets we designate for him. See, he can slave all around. We'll tell him to look where we want him to. And if we go back in and we put it to the automatic mode, you'll see it goes back to what it was doing and he'll no longer listen to us. So if you ever have him just looking all around now, go ahead and hop in the co-pilot seat, flip the switch to the O, and you will be all set. To get back in the pilot seat, press the 1 key on your keyboard number row. Now that we're all set up, let's go ahead and get in the air and get George to select a target for us. Just the classic slave to a location you're looking at method, pull up a target in the list and select it. At this point, he will say laser on and then laser off. Once he says laser off, press your weapon release button and he will say engaging and fire. At this point, you are clear to select a new target from your list. He will say laser on, wait for laser off, wait a second, hit weapon release, and he will fire another missile. It is as easy as that. Now you will notice these first rounds of missiles are not going to hit, and that is because we did not set up the laser appropriately. Just like the laser for your laser-guided Hellfires, we need to be aware of whether we are lasing the first or the last return on the laser when George is selecting the target. Just like the laser variant, we are going to look down here and then click the last button. Now when we fire, our missiles should start to reach the targets. Something you do need to be aware of as well is your distance to the target. Here I'll show that if we back up, we can be a little bit more accurate because of the restrictions on how we are able to fire the radar-guided variants. With the laser-guided variants, we can fire in direct, low-al, or high-al shot modes. With the radar-guided variant, we are not able to use direct, so we must maintain some separation between us and the target. I personally like to be between 4 and 8 kilometers away. You can get away with a bit further of a shot if you are doing it yourself or if you have another player as CPG, but George will abide by any stated maximums in the documentation. Here, I will reselect target, wait for laser off, and fire. Now we will see the missiles will go in and hit the target because we are selecting last rather than first for our laser return. George will fire these missiles as fast as you can operate them. Just make sure to give him a second after he says laser on, laser off before you press weapon consent to fire.
Tracking target. Target destroyed. Laser on.
We can see that now that our laser is set appropriately, all of our missiles are hitting the targets, but we are also drifting closer. We are now within the 3-kilometer range. This is going to lead to our missiles becoming inaccurate again because they are restricted to that low L mode. They'll start to land behind our targets. You can experiment with changing it back to first rather than last, but at a certain point, if you're too close, radar guided variants will not work. An additional ranging consideration would be being too far out of range. Here, when we see laser off and we try and shoot, it says can't shoot now. Then when we get within range, it says target in range, ready to launch. Now we repeat the procedure, wait for laser off, and engage. One final consideration for your employment of the radar-guided Hellfires is the return value of the target you are selecting. When we fire the radar-guided Hellfire, we are pointing it at an area, and it will go to the area and then look for the radar return from the seeker. If the target is too squishy, doesn't have enough metal to it, it won't give a good return, and your missile will be a lot more inaccurate. The harder the target, with the less clutter, the more accurate your missiles will be. If you have a target nestled in a bunch of buildings, the buildings may interfere with the radar return and the missile may be inaccurate. But just using the seekers out of the missile, they are not entirely accurate, so you can revert to laser-guided variants for precision shots. That covers all of the basics for utilizing the radar-guided Hellfires in the Apache. I hope that helped. Thanks for watching.